روني شلومو مش شالوم
Shalom alaikum.
شلومو is hello in Syriac.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And I didn't know we're going to be speaking Syriac tonight.
No,
So I
sorry. You didn't check the dictionary before.
I should have
Didn't
read the
revise
message
your
thoroughly.
Syriac.
Yeah.
بس أنا I know إنه أنت
Shlomo is Sleiman too.
سليمان.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
الملك Sleiman is
okay.
Shlomo HaMelech.
Yes.
Sleiman,
Okay.
Solomon,
Yeah. شلومو روني شطح.
In Shlomo ya shatah. But what does Shlomo mean in Syriac? Hello?
Hello.
Yani close to salam, shalom.
Yeah. إنه منيح بتقطع لا إنه pluralistic country.
Yeah.
يعني
Not just pluralistic, linguistically diverse too.
like linguistically diverse, it is true.
Yeah. Even in the Syriac category, which is very small,
Absolutely.
it's recognized.
Yeah. I'm very happy that you took the time to be our guest today. Well, I know أنت there's a very specific reasons why you're happy, very specific reason. يعني I would have loved for that reason to be me.
Oh.
But in reality is the poster behind you.
Can we get that shot? There it is.
There it is.
I'm very happy to be sitting next to this poster.
Why?
I'll give you 3 reasons.
Okay.
The first is that my first episode I did was with the director of that movie, Ziad Dwairi. He's the reason I still do this type of content. The second is that it's my favorite movie about Lebanon.
Mm-hmm.
I think any attempt at trying to tell the story, West Beirut is unmatched.
Absolutely.
For me, it's at the top. And a third reason is that you referenced something before I came up here, the conversation the father and son have while they're shaving in the bathroom about identity. Identity is not something I'm an expert on, but it's something I discuss and I learn about. So for all those reasons and more, I'm happy to be sitting next to this poster. But you have another one behind me too. I have an older one from Middle East Airlines.
Yeah, you have an older one?
An older one that's Air Liban.
Are you gonna gift it to me?
Never.
Why? Why not?
Because it's mine.
Okay.
And it has Beirut to Jerusalem flights.
Wow.
Yeah, which is very cool.
I would love to get my hands on a copy.
Good luck.
Is it a really a limited edition?
I mean, I don't think they're making them
anymore.
Maybe there probably are. I'll ask.
Like copies. Just take a side note before we deep dive into West
Before we die,
before we deep dive.
Please don't edit this out.
Might as well die يعني.
Please keep this stuff in. It's good. It's fun. Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna edit this out. Don't worry. I was in Paris.
Can I interrupt you?
Yes.
Early on.
Go ahead.
There's another reason I'm here.
Okay.
It's a common friend of ours, Nadim Shhadi.
Okay.
So I'd like to just mention that anyone he recommends me to, I'm more than happy to participate.
Thank you. And Anna, I have to also thank Nadim for the second-hand credibility I get from the honor of being his friend. He's someone I really look up to, and he made this connection happen, and here we are.
We're in good company.
We're in good company. So I was telling you about my time in Paris, and randomly we walk into this pub resto kind of place. Has a lot of charm, a lot of character, and we end up having a conversation with the owner, who's now 80 years old, but has lived a very big life. And he was in fashion his entire life. He had a magazine, he's traveled, he's, been around celebrities, he's dated celebrities, world-class elite fashion industry of that era, يعني. Then, out of nowhere, he pulls out an old archive, and he shows me photos of a fashion show that he had organized in collaboration with, I think, the Minister of Culture at the time, on the first flight, so in the airplane, out of Middle East Airline, on the first flight that took off after the Lebanese Civil War.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And it was, you see these things, you see these small bits and pieces of history, and you look at the cultural celebration and innovation and societal advancement that was at the time that I think we are truly lacking today. And we reminisce the old times, but we also, it makes you realize the missed opportunity and the potential that you could have. I mean, this is someone who's traveled the world, and he told me personally that was one of the experiences that, looking back at his life, that marked him, especially in light of everything that's happening in the region.
The episodes I enjoy doing the most are with individuals that remember a Lebanon I've never lived.
Yes.
And he's old enough to know better years. And I listen to these individuals very, very carefully to learn that it's not always as maybe romantic as a lot of us imagine, but it's also very important to recognize what worked.
Yes.
And how Lebanon governed itself at its prime. And these individuals, they don't even need to be Lebanese. It's just people that experienced a Lebanon that I have no relationship to.
Absolutely. Unfortunately. Well,
yeah.
But it's a Lebanon we strive for. And it's not a position to look at the past and, be nostalgic. But it's really, there was a formula that was working. And it is worth exploring what worked about it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, going back to the real reason why you are here, which is the poster.
Oh, yeah, okay, good. But there's something I don't know yet. Okay, good.
No, we're aligned. I managed my expectations.
This is my last episode. This is how it ends.
This is the end of Roni Shatah.
Well, I had a good streak.
Well, that's more than many can say, يعني صراحة.
أنا حسجل حلقة برومية. That's it.
That's how it ends.
Yeah.
At the end.
The end.
So the poster, Roni, and the scene you were referring to about the shaving and that conversation the father and son have on identity. It's one of the scenes that also marked me the most about the movie. And I agree with you, by the way, on the importance and cultural relevance of that movie in telling the Lebanese story. But I look at what's happening today, and I think that it's a question that we have not answered yet. It's a question that we have not yet resolved. It's a question that is at the heart of القضية اللبنانية, and it's a question that is the raison d'être of this podcast. And I would love to hear your thoughts on the identity of Lebanon. To ask you a simpler question, what, in your opinion, is the Lebanese identity? And maybe, let's be more radical, is there such a thing as a Lebanese identity?
I get asked this question a lot from a varied number and varied type of person. They're not always sociologists or anthropologists or political people or whatever. They could be somebody who has no relationship to the subject that's interested, or somebody that obsesses about it and makes it a career.
Yeah.
I think you can now have a career, if you want, on identity.
Yeah.
I oftentimes find myself listening more than answering, but I'll try to answer this question the way I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a Lebanese identity, and I think it's very strong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's also the one aspect of our identity that, at least in intelligentsia,
Mm-hmm.
we oftentimes reject it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Lebanese identity is sectarianism.
Yes.
And I don't think of that word as a loaded word.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, if you say to somebody, I'm sectarian,
as opposed to the secular
as opposed to
proposition.
secular, or maybe as opposed to anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's hard to find words that are as frowned upon or as pejorative, as negative, as sectarian. I think people are shy to say that or they reject it. I think it's a word that's maybe misunderstood. For me, I cannot separate these two words from each other. I think being Lebanese implies a sectarianism that is so real and so strong that it has managed to largely shape the way Lebanon looks at itself in 2026. I think it is probably richer than we would like to admit. And I think in a Lebanese context, if you look at it in a local way, because Lebanon has been in a permanent war state for so long, we look to convenient answers as to why this country doesn't work. There's a form of blaming ourselves in that, which I'm not a big fan of. If you take this word and you take it to other places, other geographies, they would probably refer to it as maybe diversity. Or if it's institutionalized, maybe consociational. Pluralism oftentimes is a word that's substituted. We're all of those things. But it's not really understood, I think, that way. It's frowned upon. If you take sectarianism and you maybe loosen the confines, you can be an individualistic person and feel comfortable in a sectarian society too. I think the two are not mutually exclusive. And that maybe is what's most at risk of disappearing from Lebanon. It's offering the comfort for being a free spirit and also comfortable within groups too. This is very unique.
Yes, absolutely. Because they're often presented as mutually exclusive options. So you're either an individualistic society or a communal and collective society. But I think the Lebanese society strikes the right balance between celebrating the positives of being self-reliant, being entrepreneurial, assuming responsibility over your life as an individual, and also celebrating your identity as an individual, because implicit in being Lebanese, as you said, is the acknowledgement that there is a different other, but also preserving this communal, societal way of life that is not targeted towards imposing a one-size-fits-all. Our communities are more geared towards a joint celebration of life, I would say, is what I would, as opposed to a totalitarian kind of communal collective.
Certain things about being Lebanese in reference to identity, certain words are not negative, they're positive. And power sharing is one of those phrases which recognizes the insecurities among minorities. And I think even with the demographic changes that have been felt in Lebanon, this country remains a conglomerate of minorities. And I don't think anyone feels otherwise. Everyone feels like they belong to a minority. And I'm talking within a Lebanese context, not stretched out across the world, just in Lebanon. So power sharing to me comes naturally. That, I think, is also Lebanese. Reaching consensus, even when it means Lebanon is inefficient, and sometimes so inefficient that it feels like it's stuck in time. Consensus is part of that too. Lebanese do find themselves most comfortable when consensus is reached. Every other aspect of this stuff, I think, is the flip side of it, and it's the negative side, not due to identity or society. I think it's due to, in my mind at least, even less that it's less than politics. I think it's security. And security in a regional sense, in a geopolitical sense, and in a local sense. When you have a security problem that creates a permanent war zone. In a way, it also creates a disorder in the country. And if you stretch that over time, maybe the identity of Lebanon gets confused.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why the question is often asked. In other words, it's not a natural way of answering. But I long ago abandoned any. I think certain words are not as negative or positive as they seem. And
Yeah.
I've experienced life in secular societies. You've done that too. I've experienced life in sectarian societies by being here. And I know that Lebanon, when it's running the way it was meant to be, when it's shining in this limited windows it has shined in my lifetime, it means both are fine.
Yeah.
And meaning I can go and live and be among secular-minded people without shying away from the group dynamics that really shape the country too. And I like that. I like the complexity.
I think also there's an additional layer. So there is the sectarian affiliation, which I agree with you that we need to decouple it from the pejorative connotations in order to be able to actually have the conversation. Otherwise, it will remain a non-word.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also the cultural layer, because you see oftentimes that there are communities and people and individuals from different, very different religious groups that ultimately have commonalities with each other culturally that do not resemble anything like their, if you want, stated or mainstream religious identity, if you want. And I think this is telling, right? I think that culture is the final final destination of this conversation. So there is the sectarian layer, there's also the religion, there's the tribal, and then ultimately all of these put together with the geographic reality, all of that, we get to a product that is the Lebanese culture. And I think we have to agree that today it is an undeniable observation, and I would love, at least in my opinion, but please tell me, to be Lebanese is something purely observationally speaking different from being an Arab, but it's also simultaneously very different from being Western. It's something, it's a product in and of itself, and it has, I think, merit to exist as a standalone. What are your thoughts on this?
I'll start with something anecdotal. I get turned off when Lebanese or foreigners don't like that we only speak one thing.
Yeah.
And I get turned off intellectually, emotionally, mentally, sexually. That never came up. But I get turned off in everything when it comes to Puritanism, wanting something to look one way, sound one way, feel one way.
On that note, I call that homogeneity, forced homogeneity.
Yeah.
That's,
and that oftentimes maybe, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt, maybe it comes from a good place in that if everyone just agreed on one thing, things would be fine. That, I think, is perhaps too naive of a way of looking at life. Yeah. When people look at the I Love Beirut signs that are in English and want them in Arabic. And I've heard this from Lebanese and foreigners. Yeah. It's that they just don't get it. That we are comfortable with all of the above.
Yeah.
I don't think I doubt the solution to where we are right now has to do with either homogeneity or wanting to define our identity. And I say this not as a rejection of what you said, on the contrary. It's that I have a feeling identity is a reflection in and of itself, and it's not something that can be engineered. I'll give you an example. I don't think the Ministry of Education can produce that long, that history book where we all have to read the same.
Yeah.
I think we know our history so well. And I think we know our history, even within those disagreements, we know the history of what happened. I don't think a history book would end Lebanon's problems. I also don't think one language or one identity, and I'll go back to your example, I think you're right. You can feel Arab if you wish to, but that's not going to be the overarching identity. Yeah. You can feel Western too, and sometimes Lebanese do like to feel a bit too Western, even to the West, that this is a bit perplexing, but that's a good thing. We're very good at it. We're very good at feeling like we belong to more than one thing, and I like that. I don't think there's anything shameful about being good at communalism and capitalism.
Wow, so many things you touched upon.
But can I add one more thing?
Go ahead.
I'm not also hostile towards how people feel towards things that are outdated.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter to me. If someone feels Phoenician on a Monday, feels Canaanite on a Tuesday, feels Middle Eastern on a Wednesday, maybe feels French when they go to Paris or to ABC, Dubai.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's another district, or Ashrafiyya to be.
I mean, if you go to 04, you feel a bit French. And you know what? You could also feel, if you really feel this way, you can feel Arab, because we are, at the end of the day, in this part of the world. We're not on Venus or Jupiter, which are shining tonight. We're here. So I think that's something we should be proud of, not something we should... I don't know if this is an education issue or if it's maybe it's a research academic problem maybe, but I think we're pre-programmed to dislike ourselves in Lebanon.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think too many foreigners, no, sorry, I'll end it here.
Go ahead.
Too many well-intentioned observers, researchers, students, university, whatever, PhD pursuers, they're very hard on us. But in a way that's, it robs of really what it means to be Lebanese. It's stop naming your kids Western names, stop speaking. You know, I actually like the fact that I don't understand Armenian. I enjoy the fact that I can go to a neighborhood and not understand everything that's being said. That little bit of friction is, for me, a good thing, not a bad thing.
You touched on so many things, Ronnie. I'm going to take my time to address them. The first one is, I love the I'm going to allow myself to say this, libertarian spirit of live and let live that you have. So it doesn't, to be Lebanese is to accept a different other and still be able to have a commonality that brings very different entities together. And I think this is at the heart of a very long history of Lebanon being a safe refuge for persecuted groups. So the idea of Lebanon came on this. It started because the mountains of Lebanon provided refuge for persecuted groups across the board. And built into this history is this principle and this value of freedom to live and freedom to exist. And it is this freedom specifically on which this country was built that will safeguard the Lebanese proposition to the world of pluralism, or the Lebanese model of pluralism. What I'm reluctant to agree with you on is this idea, or two things mainly, or three things to be specific. the list goes on.
That's pretty much everything.
That's pretty much everything I said, but sure. So technically you disagree on pretty much everything I said.
I'm used to it, so I enjoy it. Yeah.
No, but I like probing. I like probing with somebody who's
sure. I think it's
who's
good.
open to it. Yeah. So let's see what might come out of this episode.
Yeah, of course.
The first one is this idea that, okay, you are preoccupied with a debate on issues that are outdated now. So the Phoenicians, it's a conversation that some would argue is obsolete, considering that we are in 2026. Yes and no. My position on this is you cannot remove yourself from your historical context. So it does not mean that today I will be selling the Murex and, being a ship maker and go through the sea and open the new trade routes. This is not, it is not that when we say as Christians, and I am a proud Christian, so I disagree with you on three main things, but let me recap the thing I agree with you on. Otherwise, I'm gonna come across as somebody who's just cross with you.
You mentioned you're very Christian. Go ahead.
I'm very Christian, and we do that. We tend to do that. So as I said, I agree with you on this idea that implicit in being Lebanese is the principle of accepting the other and accepting a different way of life and accepting that there is a possibility for economic and societal flourishing in a very diverse community. One of the main things I disagree with you on is the idea that debating on our heritage, be it Phoenician or not Phoenician, is an outdated idea. So the conversation becomes obsolete since it's not something that is chronologically relevant. My position on this is that we cannot be removed from our historical context. And I don't know why there is this association. Actually, I do know why. The narrative of being Phoenician, as opposed to being Arab, has been emphasized as a reaction to the pan-Arab rise in the late 1950s. And it's a visceral reaction. It has always been there, obviously, because there's no denying that there is a civilizational heritage to this land that is relevant to Lebanon insofar as it's relevant to Syria, to Tunis, there were Phoenicians here. And it marked our way of life. It marked our way of doing business. It marked our culture, really, to this date. So I think there is richness in accepting the Phoenician civilization and Phoenician ancestry that transcends the Christian community. And I think this should be relevant to all the different sects in Lebanon. We look at Greece and we see that to this date, they still celebrate the mythology and the Acropolis and this rich civilizational heritage because it's part of that country's story, and they leverage it in building up the Greek brand. I do not know why in Lebanon we cannot do the same. It's such a cool thing to be the descendants of Phoenicians, the civilization that pioneered free trade, that pioneered the modern form of the alphabet, that pioneered so many contributions. This is a gain to be made to all Lebanese. And more importantly, it is something that we live with today. This idea of the Lebanese businessman did not come from nowhere. It came from rich civilizational heritage. Also, I think the Ta'if agreement.
Could I?
Oh, you want?
Yeah, can we do it step by step? Because then I could remember. I don't disagree with you. I think you can pick and choose anything about Lebanese history and celebrate it. Actually, Lebanon is a supermarket of choices. The Phoenician alphabet, you can put it on your currency, and we used to do that, al-alf lira. You can put it in more relevant places too. I think you're right. Uh, Lebanese, I think naturally, are comfortable opening up their history and celebrating what is good for them. And I agree with you that the maybe political aspect of it is mostly a rejection of what Nasser represented at that time. And it has its roots elsewhere too, you're right, and it persists today. But I don't think it's the defining component.
No.
And I would just add
Yeah.
one thing. We have the second most important Roman law school in the world.
Yeah.
I think we should not be shy about celebrating that important chapter of why Beirut is named Beirut, why a law school ended up in a place that really refuses any aspect of law today. And I think you can even take anything you want from your history. We were Ottoman.
We were never Ottoman. We were under the Ottoman Empire. That's a very different thing. We did not assimilate.
We were Ottoman in the sense that there are Ottoman relics that, fortunately, enough of them remain in this country that you can even include them in your celebration of our past. That's really what I meant.
To be again,
We're not
it's a very
Turkish.
sensitive.
I know.
It's a very sensitive topic because specifically, and I'm playing the devil's advocate in this room, and I'm very happy you're having this conversation because you are the specimen of the different other that allows for this conversation to happen. I mean,
Not the blood of what brings an empire down because of local resentment.
not just that, but also the genocides that the Ottomans committed against the Christians and so many other groups in Lebanon. I mean, it's a sad history.
I guess that's what I like about Lebanese history, though. It's not no one's forcing anyone to choose one over the other. It's an open. It's a market. That's what I meant by supermarket. And I'll take it further than that. There are words that maybe in Lebanon are more meaningful than the neighborhood. I think of Islam in Lebanon as also a supermarket. You can be on rollerblades on the Corniche and be very Muslim. You can pray 5 times a day and go play poker.
Yeah.
You can drink alcohol yet go to Mecca as well.
Yeah.
That's what I meant by I don't think anyone's forcing, at least hopefully no one's forcing, even under these conditions today, to be one thing, even within what is perhaps bigger than Lebanon. And I would flip this over and maybe before we get to the other 2 points, being a Lebanese Christian, the way I see it, I don't know if you feel the same way, is a much more tolerant version of anything I can imagine. There is a very special status for a Lebanese Christian who has to deal with so many different things that are not Christian, yet feels comfortable.
Yes, but this is earned, right?
Yeah, this is the earned nature of being Lebanese. That's what I think is strong about us, not weak.
Absolutely.
It makes Muslims also, in a way, without realizing it, I don't know if they would express it this way, they're more Christian in Lebanon, and they do more things that are frowned upon elsewhere. So
it creates the space. I wouldn't call it Christian per se, and this is again the cultural commonality that I was talking about.
Sorry, Lebanese Christian. You're right. That's sorry. You're right. Putting your Christmas tree in your apartment, or going to Harissa, or going to a Christian school.
Yeah,
that's a Lebanese experience more than Christianity at large. I agree with you.
Yeah. But partly also because of the proximity of the event. I mean, Christ's life and...
I don't know. I mean, you go to Tripoli, there's no Christians left, and maybe there's a few families left. What was once half the city's demography disappeared. It's in Zgharta or in Antelias or in Australia, maybe.
The Lebs of Australia.
The Lebanese Christians of Tripoli, Lebanese Muslims of Tripoli, the ones that are in Tripoli or elsewhere or abroad, that's locked in their memory and in their identity. It's not. That's, I think, the strength of Lebanon. It it brings out the best when it works. It brings out the best, not the worst.
Yeah.
When it works.
When it works. I will come back to when it works in a minute, but I want to go back on the disagreement part.
Sure. Yeah.
So, so as I said, I think back to the argument that yes, it is something that happened in the past, but it shapes your future. And I will give you a pragmatic example, an applied example. There's a speech from the late Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah back at the very early beginnings of the rise of the Hizb, in which he explicitly states the agenda and the raison d'être of the Hizb, which is to change the face of Lebanon and make it into a Muslim state part of Iran. And this has always been the case. I don't know how we pretended for a while that it was about something else. It was never about something else. Obviously, for the main reason that this was stated everywhere. And there was no hiding the fact that this was the agenda. So on one hand, it's an issue of identity for them as well. Yani people subscribing to this ideology, what the instrument they are using is an identity one. And and they're basing their identity on a historical narrative as well, on a theological and historical narrative.
So I'll get into the second one then. I don't think of Hassan Nasrallah, whether he's talked about what you're referring to in the 80s, this Islamic Republic, or if his more moderate tone later, and even his more Lebanese political experience more recently in the last 20 years. I don't see Hezbollah as a reflection of Lebanon. And I'll emphasize one point here. I think the identity aspect is a secondary instrument. I think it's the religious aspect as well is not the problem. That's a condition that has been brought into this country, and nothing like that has ever existed here. Where you have a foreign country, it's not even a neighbor, pumping billions of dollars into a group that resembles very little to nothing the way it looked like 40 years ago. I don't think of that as a Lebanese condition. I think that's what I meant by security. You have billions of dollars being funded into turning Lebanon upside down through war, permanent war. And I would also take issue with, you're not mentioning this, but I've heard it often that Hezbollah emerged from the Israeli invasion.
No, that's a non-argument, I think.
But that's a mainstream argument among many.
It's a mainstream argument because people don't probe, illogical arguments to their logical conclusions. And if you follow that, but please go ahead and...
that the Iranian regime spent 45 years investing in Lebanon. That's what somebody like Hassan Nasrallah, his influence and his capabilities don't come naturally.
It's not an organic...
It's not organic, and let's say it has some organic roots today. They're still funded, and they're still tied, and more so now than before, to the fate of the Iranian regime.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm not suggesting by what I said that the Hezbollah phenomenon is endemic to the Lebanese social fabric. What I was talking about is that today the war we are living is a war of identity, even if it's an identity that is being imposed on us from an exogenous player, right? So if you are not clear on what it means to be Lebanese, we cannot fight the enemy that is coming to erode that story. And perhaps what it means to be Lebanese is to be many things. That could be the case, that could be the answer. But it's not enough, because we go back to your idea of when it works. Now, what does that mean?
That's actually, if anything, that's the right question. Do you mind if I interject before we get to the third one?
Yeah, no, that's a test to my memory to see if I remember the three.
Do you want to remember the third one and then we do this?
I think I remember it.
Yeah,
go
that's
ahead,
okay. All right. I would nuance identity with ideology. I think I've experienced there's no room for this type of division within ideology. And I'll give you an example. I did an episode just a few days ago with somebody who lost his brother. His brother was a Hezbollah member who was killed in the south. And this brother blames Hezbollah for what happened to his brother. In other words, he's blaming the group for taking Lebanon to war. And Israelis obviously are the ones that killed his brother, but he's putting the burden on Hezbollah. That, to me, is much more important and more relevant than how the Shia majority or minority look at things. In other words, families can be torn apart through ideology. And if you go back to the 50s and 60s, when it worked, you had kata'ib entering families you wouldn't expect, and siblings disagreeing over the role of what it means to be pro or anti-PLO and Fatah. That happens among Muslim families too, and it happens among Christian families too. And more recently, I've been startled by how the most effective, eloquent, and really determined Lebanese that despise what Hezbollah has done are Shia. And the most supportive voices I've heard are Christian.
Well, these are broad voices.
Let me put it differently. It's unexpected how not sectarian ideology is. Ideology runs counter, I think, to sectarianism because it makes everything black and white. That's how I see Lebanese groups behaving when it doesn't work. Meaning, when you have something that is not in the story, whether it's the PLO turning the South into a war zone, things fall apart. Kata'ib kids can go from playing basketball to shooting Palestinians.
Right.
Overnight.
Of course.
Yeah.
I think to go back, because you mentioned the PLO.
Or the Syrians when they occupied. It can create characters that you would never imagine wanting them to enter, and then characters you would never imagine them wanting them out. That's what a disorder does to Lebanon. And now it's Iran.
Now it's Iran, but going back to the idea of the PLO, because it is, it's the link that connects all of these different aliens that you mentioned right now. And
I wouldn't go as far as saying aliens. Let's say external problems.
Alien to the Lebanese, that context. I think, speaking on behalf of the Christian community, again.
Here we go. Yeah.
Here we go.
You're representing
the far right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. See, that's what I meant. Ideology is much more relevant, I think, than.
Yeah. But in Lebanon, when you say the far right, what comes to mind on the top of your head?
With somebody like you, I can feel more flexible in saying that far right to me is Hezbollah, which means anti-state, fascistic, and revolutionary to a ideological cause.
Yeah.
That to me is right wing. The most left wing at the moment might be Kata'ib. In
socially,
terms of even
their policies on
economics.
Very interesting. Actually, I think we should do an episode on mapping the political spectrum because it's all over the place in Lebanon.
I know it's cliche to say this, but I think it's true. There is no real sensible left and right discourse in Lebanon.
No.
There's a feeling that the Lebanese forces are right-wing and Hezbollah is left-wing. That's a feeling.
But I will tell you, the Lebanese forces, even on economics, I do not think have lived up to this reputation. Just more to your point, by the way, more to your point.
They're a bit liberal and left-leaning compared to, and that's why a lot of people that come here don't know what to do with these thoughts, because
you cannot map them.
Leftists think they should support Hezbollah.
Yeah.
And think they should fight the Lebanese forces. And then they come here and they feel somehow that this doesn't make sense anymore. Or if they come here and still feel they should fight the wrong side in their narrative, they're better off leaving, because I would much rather see Hezbollah disarmed than the Lebanese forces blamed for where we are.
Yeah. Wow. Going back to the PLO, because I think it's very relevant to the conversation we just happened now. At one point in history, there has been a Maronite marriage between the Arab identity and the Palestinian cause. And that also coincided with the leftist sentiment. So you have this trilogy of being pro-Palestine on the basis of Al-Umma Al-Arabiya, and that means to be Yasari, Marcel Khalifa, Julia Boutros, Ziad الرحباني, clan comes to mind, مع كل الاستفافات السياسية تبع هيديك الحقبة. For somebody who's trying to make sense of the political spectrum in Lebanon, how do you explain this formation? Like, why is it that to be an Arab means to be pro-Palestine? And to be pro-Palestine means to be pro-left. And it might be the case that I have a skewed observation. So please help me understand.
I mean, I would like to take it much bigger than that. I think being pro-Palestine today, or at least supporting the cause, the way it's been translated, has entered universities, has entered people talk about Palestine in Iceland, and they talk about Palestine in New Zealand, and they follow the story probably a bit more than we do at times, which means that it means something to them. I don't think it's so much Arab. I think it's...
But I'm talking about the moment in history when the political alignment in Lebanon was such that those who subscribe to the Arab identity subscribe to the Palestinian cause. I'm talking about the Civil War era.
Yeah, I mean, the German, what were they called? That I forgot the name of that German militia, that paramilitary group, the IRA, those Japanese fighters found themselves also believing in the Palestinian cause. Maybe the Palestinian cause, I think, is now a global thing. I'll get to the Arab part, but I think that is pure ideology.
Okay.
They pick and choose what makes sense to them from that cause and amplify their own cause. It could be one decade it's Tibet. The other decade maybe it's environmental issues. Or maybe another decade it's another conflict. And somehow Palestine becomes the mechanism in which they get some attention. I think that's a lot of it. Flotilla environmentalists that come and don't really know where they're going, I think are not driven because of anything other than a perceived oppressor that they're fighting and the perceived victim that they're supporting. This, I think, is a universal thing. Not to discredit the well-intentioned among them too. But in the Lebanese context, I don't think it's so much Arab. I think Arab nationalism was much more of a burden on Lebanon than how Lebanese viewed the Palestinian issue. I think Arab nationalism is completely akin to Lebanese expression. And I think that's how the civil war started really in the 1950s.
Can you elaborate on that?
In 1958, the Lebanese were ready to go to war. And in a way, heavy international protection, which meant back then American Marines landing on the coast and military support for the Lebanese government and its continuation. I think Arab nationalism, what Nasser did to the region, had horrible repercussions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is clearer now than it was back then. Maybe in the 1950s, I mean, I can imagine this. My own relatives would listen to Abdel Nasser and worship him, more important than Muhammad in terms of prophet-like stature. He was worshipped, he was revered. That is, I think, the biggest story of how Lebanon is vulnerable at its core when you have a regional shift and a regional war that can tear the country apart fast. That's 1958.
Yeah. But do you
But
see now the
Yep.
juxtaposition against the Arab identity?
Yes, I'll get to that, but I wanted to just say 1958, Lebanese went to war. In 1967, Abdel Nasser launched a war,
Yeah.
launched the regional war, Arab nationalism, whatever you want to call it, in support of Palestine. Lebanon didn't participate. That's when it works. So that, to me, is the stark contrast.
And then what happened in 1969?
That's when it doesn't work. Exactly. And you're absolutely right. Well, but going back to identity, I think when Lebanon is spared regional war, its identity works at its best.
When Lebanon actively spares itself regional war.
Yeah.
What happens when regional war is launched on the basis of identity? This is the problem. And I
honestly, I mean, I'm not, okay, I'll say something, maybe it's,
I mean, at the moment, it's the Arabs versus the Jews.
I've heard people say this as well, people that I listen to, and I've been invited on shows where that's, for me, it's said in a way it's almost implied that that's true. I don't think it's true. I don't think identity is what drives people to fight each other. And I don't think Arabs and Jews are fighting each other.
At the moment, if you look at the Gulf countries, Arabs and Jews are not fighting each other. The only people who are still subscribing to this assumption that Arabs and Jews are fighting each other are the people who are romanticizing the glory days of the Palestinian cause.
I don't know. I don't know if this is true. Jews and Arabs, I don't think, are fighting each other in a way that's identity related. Definitely the Israelis have gone to war against Hamas and have killed thousands and tens of thousands of Palestinians. Hence, words that you didn't imagine coming up in this kind of conflict are used now that as startling. Just what happened to Gaza and what happened to the Palestinians in Gaza. They're fighting Hezbollah too, and Lebanese are getting killed too. But I don't think that's because Jews and Arabs
But this was the origin of the conflict, no? How did it start, is my question.
The Lebanese side or the Arab-Israeli conflict?
The Arab-Israeli conflict.
I mean, that's probably, we'd have to sit here for a little longer, but I don't think identity in itself is what led to the partition or maybe even the war that led to the creation of Israel and the dismantlement of the British mandate of Palestine. And I think a lot of the politics at play, and clearly World War II made it a fact that there would be something called Israel. I think that is so much more important than whether Jews or Muslims or Christians live somewhere.
Who do you think has been a bigger enemy of Lebanon?
By the way, can I say something?
Go ahead.
The most vicious Israelis are all Arab.
Wow.
Wait. What's her name? The new one that replaced Avichai?
Yeah.
I forgot her name.
Me too.
She's Palestinian.
Yeah.
She's Muslim. Avichai is from Iraq and Syria. That's why he likes Ziad Rahbani. That's why he mourns Lebanese when art. I mean, he's a strange character. In 2006, the president of Israel, if I remember this right, was an Iranian Jew. And the minister of defense on their side was a Moroccan.
I mean, they pride themselves for being pluralistic in that regard.
Yeah, but I don't know if this is all about identity. I think definitely war is many things at once, but I maybe some of their leadership speaks this way. Hence, it's more attractive. What's his name? Ben Gvir.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
sometimes Netanyahu too. But I don't know if this is a biblical war. I don't think
I'm
so.
not. Yeah. I see what you mean. I see. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. What I understand from you is that the reasons why this war exists, or the incentives, the real incentives, are not biblical per se, although the stated incentives that fuel public opinion are.
Public opinion is probably a lot less complex and it may be more emotional. And definitely identity lives in that
Yeah.
space for sure. Hence, you have different identities.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think, I doubt the Lebanese view themselves naturally this way.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think they abnormally end up feeling worse when they can't control their destiny. Somehow, there was a moment we're not able to witness because we're too young, that it worked to a degree, and that's the Lebanon everyone refers
Yeah.
to. Your friend, the fashion,
Yeah.
the 80-year-old,
Oh, he's French, by the way.
and he's French.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why they're lucky. They know a semblance of what worked,
Yeah.
but it hasn't worked since.
Who do you think has been a bigger enemy of Lebanon? I'll give you three options.
But wait, was there a third thing that we
Yeah.
forgot?
True.
Was this it, or
No.
that's no?
The third thing was, you mentioned this idea that you don't think the resolve of the issue in Lebanon is to, all agree on this very long narration of what happened, almost like a Christian confession. Let's confess everything that happened in the Civil War so we can write our history and move on. I think that I'm sympathetic to that position. The danger, though, I think, by not telling the stories, there's a risk of erosion, and there's a risk of history manipulation, and there's a risk of lies, especially that your political opponent, yours and mine, and is actively rewriting that story. So I think there is a merit in emphasizing that we need to keep on telling these stories, and we need to keep on making sure that we are preserving the historical integrity of what happened, even if it means taking stock and admitting where things went wrong.
I would go further. They're not a political opponent. We can all deal with political opponents. Hezbollah is an existential threat to everything we're talking about.
Yeah.
And if that is not addressed in our lifetime, you lose Lebanon.
Yeah.
Not every experiment is meant to work.
Yeah.
It's fragile. I agree with you in one thing, that it's largely dependent on a neutrality that works for Lebanese and a distancing from regional war that's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only happy to know that it did work at some point.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if there's ever going to be a way it works again, I don't think it's going to be through secularism or tyrannical government
Yeah.
or a sectarianism that is ugly.
Yeah.
Meaning, and
Yeah.
I often get a bit beaten up on social media for saying this. I don't know if divorce is the right way. I'm not convinced about it. It may end up happening as a result of all of this. That might be the end.
Mm-hmm.
But that to me means the experiment is over.
Mm-hmm.
And we lost what was good about Lebanon. And maybe that could be the way it ends.
Okay.
But I don't know if divorce is the preferred choice.
Mm-hmm. No, yes, again, I see what you mean. There has been an emergence of some groups that are proposing, federalism, or even complete partition of the country. I think it's just another side of the same coin. So either one size fits all or no size at all. I mean, is this the...
No, I mean, I think, I don't know about like the intellectual argument. One should have it and one should not be opposed to ideas. but reaching the conclusion that you need to create different countries here, I don't know if that's right. I'm not convinced.
It's an admission of defeat, I think. And it's an admission that the Lebanese experiment failed.
I don't think what is really tearing Lebanon apart cannot be addressed this way.
Yeah.
I think it's more wishful thinking.
Yeah. Before we go to what was working about Lebanon,
but I interrupted you. You said,
the question on who, in your opinion, has been the biggest enemy of Lebanon. And I'll give you some options. The PLO, Israel, Assad's Syria, Hezbollah.
Wow, I have to choose the biggest of that basket. If you asked me this question 3 years ago, I think the one that left Lebanon the most injured and perverted in its politics is the Syrian regime, the Syrian occupation. I think there's a permanent problem with how the Syrians governed Lebanon, and we're still living through that today.
There goes your Ma'alik.
It's a very important book.
It's a treatise on all economic.
You know, when you drop it, you have to burn it. I think that 30 years or so of either intrusion or violence or occupation, I think it changed the way Lebanon. It turned Lebanon upside down, and it forced Lebanese to feel a way that they never felt and to be afraid of what they were proud of. You said earlier, a refuge for minorities. Lebanon was also a refuge for thinkers.
Yeah.
And the Syrian occupation destroyed that. It destroyed those thinkers too. The same thinkers that were produced by what Lebanon was proud of, those descendants are killed. Samir Asir is one example. He's a Syrian Palestinian Lebanese with a French passport. That's part of it. That's why he was here, seeking refuge. The Syrians killed him, Hezbollah. That, I think, is... Syrian occupation caused permanent damage. Hezbollah, I guess, would be the answer to your question, because you could get rid of the Syrian occupation. I don't know if we can actually effectively get rid of Hezbollah. Not as a group, not as a political thing. I don't really think their politics really matter. They would be a very unpopular group politically. I'm talking about what Hezbollah not only inherited from the Syrians, but created in the last 3 years, which is, I think we're seeing it die. I think Lebanon that we're talking about will not live long enough in our lifetime. I blame them.
Yeah.
I think they're killing Lebanon.
Yeah.
The Syrians strangled Lebanon.
But they're...
The PLO hijacked Lebanon.
And we fought.
Yeah, and Hezbollah, as it was created in the last 4.5 decades, I think is killing Lebanon.
Going back to what works.
That's what you call the golden moment. It's like,
yeah.
But no, go ahead. Yeah, no. Going back to what works.
When you say, I mentioned, and you mentioned the idea of seeking refuge. I think before that, there is something that there's a logical step before that people often miss, which is, why is it that two countries very close to each other geographically, under the same regime, one was able to provide refuge for a persecuted group, and one was the persecutor? And the reason for that is that there are protections in the Lebanese constitution that allow even those who are entirely anti that constitution to go on TV and on social media and express their opinions. And this is a safeguarding that we take for granted, that we have fought very hard to preserve, And that is quintessential to what it means to be Lebanese. There is a quote for the patriarch sphere, like him or hate him, that's a different thing. But she says, there is no Lebanon without freedom. And there is no, I mean, he has a very poetic way of saying it. But this idea that freedom as a value is intrinsic, it's an intrinsic value to the making of what Lebanon is and how Lebanon evolved and how Lebanon came to be, the idea of Lebanon. There is no Lebanon without freedom. And what does freedom mean? I know it sounds poetic, but it has very pragmatic applications. And we need to actively preserve freedoms. And I will relay the conversation to you by ending with a quote, again, that I don't know verbatim, from Karl Popper. Something along the lines of, to tolerate the intolerable is to... I'll have to figure out how it ends, but it means to tolerate the intolerable in the context of saying, it means that you are tolerating the anti-freedom. So there are limits to toleration, not in the sense, you have to strike a balance between toleration and more interventionist kind of approach on things. There are conditions, necessary conditions for toleration to be possible, for coexistence to be possible. And these conditions, if are not met, we lose the formula of what Lebanon works.
You're a living example of what I'm talking about. You are libertarian in your economics, yet you're also identifying within a group. So that's not very libertarian in identity, but you're libertarian at heart when it comes to what you believe in. And you're also speaking in English with me. You were speaking probably Arabic before this. And I would put money on this, you can speak French.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's a living example of what I mean by this. None of this makes you feel weird. Mm-hmm. It comes natural to you. I'm a fan of Batrak Sfir. I don't know why anyone would not be, even if some of his decisions were, in retrospect, maybe under pressure, but I think he's somebody that should be celebrated in Lebanese history, not frowned upon. He's right. Freedom is everything. Freedom also did something which is not talked about enough. Lebanon is the only other country, other than Israel in the region, that had an increase in its Jewish population after the creation of Israel. Which means Syrian and Iraqi Jews and some Egyptian wanted to come here. They didn't want to go to Israel or go to Europe or beyond. It meant Lebanon was something for them. Mm-hmm. Not this experiment called Israel that may not last. Mm-hmm. Whatever, it's born out of war. Lebanon attracted that community too. And that's, for me, so much more important than I think to have these kinds of conversations, one has to look at various chapters of Lebanese history. And I think identity is it's not one thing always. I think it evolves, it devolves. Another poster behind me, I think, is Fayrouz somewhere. Yeah. She's up. Yeah. The camera doesn't get her. Fayrouz is most popular when Lebanon is most popular. Mm-hmm. Right? And her songs are not very complicated.
Thank God you didn't say they aren't very good.
No,
I was like, no. I wasn't sure where you were going with this. And I'm like,
I don't, Fayrouz, there's no one else like her. We're lucky she's still alive. Fayrouz, her lyrics, let's say, what she's singing about, it's not so difficult. It's about villages, it's about tranquility, it's about a kite, it's about a boy, it's about a river, it's about innocence. Yeah. Yet millions of people and the whole Middle East fell in love with this woman. Yeah. None of what she's singing about reflects what they're going through. Yeah. Yet they know what she's saying. And Fayrouz is shining the world over. 10, 15 years later, her son, who's the complete opposite of what she's singing about, reflects a time in Lebanese history that's dark and not so innocent anymore. Hence, his music is far more political.
Charged, yeah.
Yes, and it's about the under, it's about the oppressed, it's about the victim, it's about the poor. And a lot of his music is really in that spirit of maybe an ideology, of maybe a left leaning view of the world
Yeah.
will save Lebanon. Maybe. That's the same family. That's mother and son. And sometimes they were singing at the same time. Sometimes he would write her music. And then her music changed too. So I think identity changes. But what is permanent in my mind, so long as Lebanon exists as it does right now, what is permanent is that sectarianism is not going to go anywhere. And Lebanese groups will continue to live with each other and maybe at times feel insecure. But I think the goal is always finding something that works together. That's, to me, what matters most. Underneath that is a lot of different Lebanese varieties. We only talked about a few. But I don't know if we don't really take this. You're right that people have to sometimes emphasize this, that we're losing. If we lose Lebanon, we lose a lot of things with it. It's not just a little part of this part of the world. You're losing an experiment that I think is still worth saving, but I don't know if it will be saved or not. I'll add one more thing here. I spent the last decade of my life pushing back against a lot of thinkers who kept thinking Hezbollah is not the story. Forget Hezbollah. Talk about economics. Talk about identity. Talk about anything else. But don't focus on Hezbollah. Hezbollah will not be the problem. Or Hezbollah is a reflection of the model. Or Hezbollah is something else. Or Hezbollah is good.
Yeah,
right?
Protector of the South.
Hezbollah can, whatever. I always pushed back when I thought it was important that if you're saying that, you're ignoring what will kill Lebanon. And I think we are now living in this dark chapter.
Yeah, I think on that point, we are in the middle of the storm right now, looking at Hezbollah and acknowledging explicitly once and for all there's a consensus in the country that we finally identified the enemy. أعرف عدوك. We finally reached that goal. Unfortunately, we reached it very late, and it's an enemy that has been years in the making. It's an enemy that was allowed to develop itself, and we are facing the form of Hezbollah that we are facing today because of exactly that leniency that was granted to Hezbollah, whether intentionally or because of, out of ignorance. And we now have to face this reality at a time where the people who are collectively responsible for letting the situation culminate to what it is today are
I don't think anyone
are
really
not being held accountable.
They didn't understand what Hezbollah was turning into. And to be fair, none of us appreciated it until it was really, really dark here. Really, really dark. Hezbollah evolved and overtook and became something so powerful that it could invade Syria too. It could kill Syrians. Hezbollah could train militias in other countries. Lebanese going into Syria to fight on behalf of the Assad regime is not a Lebanese thing.
No.
And who cares if Ali Khamenei was killed? We're not part of that yet. Now we are. That for me, it's not about being an enemy or an opponent or an ally. They're an existential threat.
Yeah. But they're an existential threat which makes them the enemy.
Enemies you can make peace with. You can't make peace with Hezbollah.
Okay, wow. That's even a more radical view.
not the people, not the group. Call
The
it
identity, the ideology of the Hizb.
the security destroying factor that has turned Lebanon upside down.
Yeah, especially to your point that uh, destroying the guarantees of security is destroying the glue that keeps us tied together, and this is why it's such an existential
Absolutely.
threat.
I completely agree.
I want to end with you on a positive note, Roni. I had a guest previously, and we spoke about this idea of country branding, the importance of branding your country like a luxury product, because then you become a high valued asset.
Uh-huh.
There are economic benefits.
This is going to be the most interesting question I've ever been asked. Yes. I'm
Really?
enjoying this. Yes, yes. It's unexpected. Yeah.
Well, it's something. It's an area of interest that is very close to my heart.
Yeah.
And I always think about the Lebanese brand in the international arena. What does it mean to be Lebanese today? It means coming from a war-torn country, a failed state, no opportunity. It's a very sad story to tell. It's almost akin to the Gaza story. Yet, and this is the positive note, at the same time, against all odds, you look at the Lebanese people abroad and even internally, and you see an unbeatable will to life. You see remarkable achievements across the board in all industries. You see human flourishing wherever they go. You see just goodness, societal good. There are good people that, and this is something very rare, and people take it for granted, I think. Yes, we talk about the Lebanese hospitality and all of that, glamorizing and romanticizing, but I think had we been different people with the history that we've had, there would have been no room for, we would have not existed. I mean, the persistence of Lebanon is an act of defiance to the odds that were stacked against us. And we take this for granted, and we don't know how unique that is. And that is part of our brand. We are resilient because of these things. We are resilient as we've survived so many things. The list goes on. At this point, it's a badge of honor. I mean, what do we want Lebanon to be known for, I think, is the question. And choosing our political and geopolitical alignment is a strategic decision that should be well thought and well made. And I think there is value in aligning ourselves in a way that is very much open and welcoming and friendly with the Arab world. But there's also value in preserving the uniqueness of the Lebanese case that is not entirely Arab, not entirely Western, it's Lebanese, and it has enough elements to be its standalone thing. And that is proud liberal patriotism for you.
Do I answer this? Is there?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a question, but
let
I would
me
love
add.
to.
Yeah, let me. You're right. We're special, but I would go much further than that. You don't have to travel, because the whole world is here.
Wow. Yeah.
Everything you want on this planet is here.
Yeah.
And that's what made Lebanon very, very intriguing to the rest of the world. And I think that's what's at stake. I'm turning 45 soon. The more I speak about Lebanon now, with guests that are maybe closer to me in age, I see myself sometimes and I realize I've gotten older. And I'm a lot more tired today about this story than I was 20 years ago. I think a lot of that has to do with seeing something you love and you identify with. And I think our friend Ziad Dwairi, in his way, feels the same way. And that's, I think, why he's not here.
Mm.
Um, you realize that what you love so much is not there anymore. It's gone. And I think that's a very heartbreaking reality, that the end of the story for me is when I no longer feel at home here. And I don't see myself here.
Do you think this is a real...
It's happening because of this war.
Yeah.
Lebanon is changing for the worse. There's so much tolerance and patience. Any experiment can withhold.
Tolerance is not always a virtue. Let's put it that way.
We've gone through. I think we've gone through too much, and I don't know. Time. I hope that's not the finale to this story.
I will tell you what the finale to the story is. Perhaps this is a biblical one. The cedars of Lebanon have always outlived the storms.
I'll end one more thing and we can wrap it up. It's those damn Phoenicians that cut down so many of them. Otherwise, our mountains would have been full of cedar trees.
Well, we're planting some now. It's not just the Phoenicians.
It's not just the Phoenicians. Yeah. You're right. That's true. It's
literally everybody. Well,
can I add one more thing?
Go ahead.
I've experienced Phoenicia in Malta. They're very proud of their Phoenician identity. Yeah. I promise you this. It's okay.
To be Phoenician?
But it's not that special. And I promise you, there's much more important things than holding on to chapters of history. I think holding it together is much more interesting. Malta doesn't have much other than that. That's why it's a boring jazire with a Lebanese accent in Italian, and it gets very boring very fast. I went to a beach there called Ramlet al-Hamra.
Wow.
Not that interesting. Lo Ramlet al-Bayda was clean, much better. And their Medina, which they call it Medina.
No, they speak...
their capital. Okay, there's a fortress, there's a wall. Beirut is so much better than anything that's in Malta. So I'll end it there, that we're bigger than Phoenicia.
Cheers to that, Ronnie. I like that.
Thank you.